Hey, everybody, it's Natalie B. McKenzie with The Whole Woman, and welcome to this week's episode of Living Life Authentically with yours truly. Well, it's the day after Mother's Day, and I hope all moms are just coming down from their cloud nine, having had a wonderful weekend. And maybe you're still off somewhere luxuriating in a little bit of vacation and having a good time away from the family. Fabulous. Enjoy it. I had a quiet day, spent some time with some special friends, especially none other than Miss Nellie Jenkins. But yesterday, being Mother's Day, was also the birthday of one of our, what I like to call TWW mommies. And she's our favorite mom, none other than Sandy Tate. So happy birthday, Sandy. I know they just kept you going from midnight till midnight, and you had a ball and a blast. We miss you. We didn't get to see you this year, but not to worry, there's still time to celebrate. So we want to wish you a happy Mother's Day if you're still out celebrating. And for some of us who've lost our moms, I lost my mom, I lost my mother-in-law. It was a little different, but that's okay. We have wonderful memories. And if you've lost a child, we are sending you a special wish, a hug. And we know time heals it, but Mother's Day makes it just a little harder. So, welcome to Living Life Authentically. I'm Natalie B. McKenzie, and we have a phenomenal woman for you today. I'm excited to chat with her because she's one of my faves anyway. She has just done such amazing work and has left a footprint in the investment world on Wall Street. Yes, she is female. Yes, she is a Black woman. And yes, she's an icon. Her name opens doors, and she has a reputation that is stellar. She's a renowned international public speaker. She's a senior client advisor at Morgan Stanley. And for those of you in the know, you probably already know who we're talking about. She's had over 30 years on Wall Street as an investment banker, and she has an extensive industry experience in technology, media, retail, telecommunications, transportation, industrial, and healthcare sectors. Boy, what a resume. She's highly regarded as a motivator, executive, and a leader. She was appointed to President Barack Obama's chair the National Women's Business Council. Well, excuse me. I didn't know that. Named one of the top 40 female speakers in the world in 2020, and she engages audiences around the world on Carla's Pearls. Dead giveaway there. Her most recent book is Lead to Win. She shares her pearls of international leadership to help professionals become powerful, impactful, influential leaders in today's challenging professional context. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Miss Carla Harris. Hello, Carla, and welcome to Living Life Authentically.
Well, hello, Natalie. I am very glad to be here.
It is such a pleasure to meet you on screen, to see you after all these years. How have you been keeping?
I've been busy, but I've been very, very good.
That's a blessing. So, Miss Carla Harris, you are renowned. You need no introduction. And we give that introduction as a matter of formality and, of course, giving you your flowers as you are living. By the way, happy Mother's Day.
Thank you very much, and happy Mother's Day to you.
I thank you. Tell us about Carla. This young woman, this little girl, where is she from? What went into the sauce that made this giant of a woman? Tell us where you're from and little bit about your family dynamics.
Sure. I was born in Port Arthur, Texas, but I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, because my family moved there when I was 8 going on 9, and Jacksonville was my father's birthplace. And, as a child, I love school. And I will tell you that my folks always made me feel like I was supposed to do well. Not that it was anything special about me at all, that you just are supposed to do well. So I had it in my mind, Natalie, I was supposed to do well. And, always enjoyed the hunt, if you will, and, competing to try to get that A. I was very involved extracurricularly, whether it was singing in church or whether it was bowling. I was an avid bowler, started bowling in this league by this phenomenal woman, Claudille Allen. She got a group of us Black kids bowling, and we got so good, frankly, that I was bowling competitively for scholarship money by the time I was a junior and senior in high school. Started working at my first W-2 job at McDonald's, and I tell people that was one of my favorite jobs because I absolutely did love serving the public, and I like the challenge of serving people in 60 seconds. I'm not sure that's still the protocol today. And one thing I would say that was the case when I was a kid and follows me today is that I'm negatively motivated. So when you tell
Mm.
me that I can't do something, I'm all over it. And so whether that was applying to Ivy League schools or actually getting to be an economics undergrad major because I was told as a freshman, don't do that because I couldn't think. So when I think about who I am, when I'm challenged and people sell me short or say I can't do something, I get highly motivated to prove them wrong and to execute at the end of the day. So that's a little of my background.
So, Carla, do you have siblings?
Yes, I grew up as an only child because I'm the only product of my mother and father's union. But I do have another brother. He's 5 years older, so he was born before my parents got together. But he is my brother.
Well, I asked that question because you mentioned bowling, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, who is bowling? And I had no clue there was scholarship money out for bowling. Had I known that, maybe I would have learned to bowl.
Yeah, you'd be surprised, Natalie. And that's one of the things I say to young people, especially in high school today. There's lots of money out there. And today it's easier to access it because you can pull up the information
Internet.
using technology. We obviously didn't have the kind of tools that are available today. So you really had to depend on somebody telling somebody. And because Miss Clausille, her name was Clausille Avon, as I mentioned before, because she was so connected in the bowling world, she could find out from some of the other bowling coaches, many of who didn't look like us, about those different opportunities that were out there. And she would make sure that her kids got a chance to play.
I love it. Always having that advocate that's out there digging through the weeds, looking for an opportunity for you is always a good thing. And when your family just expects you to do well, what else are you going to do but do well? Tell us about your career out of high school. Where did you
Mhm.
go off to college?
Yes, I went to Harvard, and therein also lies a story, Natalie. I had not had any aspirations to go to an Ivy League school, but I was in honors classes at a great high school, Bishop Kenny High School in Jacksonville, Florida. And I was in those classes hearing my classmates speak to each other. Oh, did you apply to Harvard yet? Well, I'm finishing my application for UPenn, and I'm thinking about applying to Princeton, and I'm listening to these conversations. And then some of the recruiters were actually coming to campus because Bishop Kenny is a renowned school in Jacksonville, Florida. And, I went to a couple of those meetings and I was really intrigued. I remember the first one I went to was Cornell. And I remember going to the guidance office and I said, I'm going to apply to Cornell. And I mentioned a couple of other schools that I heard my colleagues talking about.
Sure.
And the guidance counselor said to me, and I'm sure he was well meaning, but he said, don't apply to those Ivy League schools. Don't worry about that. You'll go to a good college. Don't worry about applying to those schools. And I said, well, why not? And he said, because it's really difficult to get in. They take 1 in 10, maybe. Don't worry about it. You'll go to a good college. Just apply to the Florida schools. And then I said, well, what do you need to get in? And he said, you need good grades. Well, now they had a 4.0, right? He said, you need
But
good,
don't apply.
yeah, you have good SAT scores. I said, yeah, I got great SAT scores. You need to be involved. I was involved in like 3 or 4 activities at the time. So he said, trust me, you apply to the Florida schools, you will get in. So being the obedient little Catholic girl that I am, I did exactly what he told me to
Yeah.
do. I applied to all the Florida schools. However, I applied to all the other schools that I wanted to apply
Good
to.
for you.
And Natalie, I got into all of them. So what do I say to young kids today? Don't count yourself out. And for Pete's sake, don't let anybody else count you out. If I had listened and had not applied, I'm not saying I wouldn't have gotten to Wall Street, but I would have been on a completely different trajectory than the one that was preordained for me. Right. So I applied and I got in. And I remember telling my mother, Mom, I got in to Harvard. I'm going. And she said, well, how are we going to pay for that? And I said, Ma, I don't know, but we'll figure it out. And voila.
Here we are. We know someone else that made it to Wall Street that was told to go be a plumber. He
Uh-huh.
also made it to Harvard. It's amazing how great these guidance counselors have you students pegged. They know you so well.
Yeah.
So you go to Harvard. Tell me about this experience at Harvard and give us context of what was happening culturally,
Yes,
because
so
I'm
I'll tell you.
sure.
I'll tell you another funny story. So that was the early 80s. So preppy was all the thing. So I saved up my money from working at McDonald's and I went shopping before I went up to Harvard because I went sight unseen. We didn't do any college tours, by the way. There was no money to do anything like that. So I went sight unseen. And I remember my honors physiology teacher saying to me, if you can't afford to go see the school, then you can't afford to go. And
Ooh,
again, it was one of those things, frankly, Natalie, that it just didn't land, right? So I
I
went
can't believe
sight
that we're so brazen.
right. I had never been to and he didn't say it in a mean way. He was trying to encourage the students to visit before they made their decision. But I don't think he was taking into account the fact that some of us didn't have the resources to be able to do such a thing. And at that point, I had never been on a plane. So my first time, it was actually my second time because another college was trying to recruit me and they actually paid for me to come and see that school. So that was my very first time on the plane. But the second time was when I went up to see Harvard. And I had never been to the Northeast before. And I remember getting to the campus, and my mother said, call me when you get there." So I went to the payphone. Remember that? I went to the payphone and I called my mother and I said, "Ma, I'm here." And she said, "How is it?" And I said, "Oh," I just broke down because all of a sudden now it hit me at 17 that I was out here on my own, right? So, you're talking big and bad when you're at home. I got there on my own and I'm like, "Oh no." But make a long story short, my mother said to me again, she plugged into that negative motivation. She said, "Carla, you still have the money tied in the handkerchief that we gave you?" I said, "Yes, yes, ma'am." She said, "Well, honey, nobody's making you stay. You haven't unpacked your things. You can get a cab. You can come right on back here and you can go to college locally, or I'm sure one of the Florida schools, FSU, FAMU, University of Florida that accepted you, I'm sure they'll take you. And if not, you can spend a year here going to Florida Junior College and then you can transfer, but you don't have to stay, baby. You
Oh.
don't have to stay." And I don't need to tell you, Natalie, those tears, whoop, they dried right up. Right? And I was like, I think I'll try, and the rest was history. And while I was there, I had a work study job, but I quickly acquired a couple of other work study jobs. So
Mm.
I had at one point 3 jobs while I was there. So I never had to call home and ask for any money. Between loans and some small scholarships and working, I was able to make it through, and magna cum laude at that. So
All
I
right.
tell I tell students you can absolutely do that. Working, studying, trying to get honors, they are not mutually exclusive. They all work together, and if you trust whose you are, not who you are, it's gonna work. Don't worry.
I am so excited to hear this because now here you are graduating. What was your major?
Economics. And as I mentioned, as I alluded to earlier, my freshman year, you know how everybody takes those survey courses, the big courses? Well, the big course was Ec 10, but you had study groups that were generally led by graduate students. And boy, this guy was hard to understand and hard to learn from. In freshman year, you declare your major. And when it was time to declare majors, he said, "Girl, whatever you do, don't major in economics because you can't think." So I don't need to tell you what I did. I went straight over to the freshman dean's office and signed up for economics.
Boy, you've just been they've been betting on you all this time, huh? Oh boy. So what were some of the other things? Because I noticed that in your official resume, it doesn't talk about you singing. I happen to know you have performed at some very esteemed places. I'll let you tell the story. But tell us about that little extracurricular activity of
Yes,
yours, singing.
yes. I sang for 3 years with the Radcliffe Choral Society. And the reason that I sang with the Radcliffe Choral Society as opposed to Kaumba, which I was dying to sing with, that was, excuse me, the gospel group on campus, is that freshman exercises, when they open it up and all the freshmen are there, the parents are there and all of that. I was there by myself, of course, because my parents couldn't afford to come up. I saw the Radcliffe Choral Society sing, and I'll never forget it. They were singing, "She wore a cherry ribbon in her hair." And I didn't see anybody who looked like me. So again, Natalie, that was that Scooby moment, that wait. And I'm thinking, well, if I think I can sing, then I should be able to sing classical music as well as I'm singing gospel and R&B and pop.
Oh, my
So I tried out for it and I got in. And I will tell you that it was an amazing experience. As it turned out, there was already one other Black female in the Radcliffe Choral Society at that time, but she wasn't performing that day. Now, interesting enough, if I had seen her, maybe I wouldn't have felt so strongly that I had to go to do that. But the reason I ended up not singing Kaumba, which is probably the only regret that I have from my Harvard time, was that the Radcliffe Choral Society rehearsed 3 days a week and
Mm.
and they rehearsed Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And Kuumba rehearsed on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I said, boy, if my grades start to suffer and my daddy finds out that I'm singing 4 nights a week, he's going to kill me. So that's the only reason that I didn't join Kuumba. And after my sophomore year, it turns out that the Radcliffe Choral Society was doing a European tour. And I had never, after my junior year, and I had never gone to Europe before. So I stayed with the group until I, was able to also tour with them that
Wow.
summer. And I was a featured soloist when we got to the Negro Spirituals. And it was an amazing experience. My first time abroad.
Fabulous. Well, let's talk about this musical inclination that you have,
Mhm.
because now you're singing, you're touring, I mean, and you're soloist. Come on now, high cotton, as they would say. Talk to me about this musical bug that's within you.
Yeah.
What did you do with it? But really, where did that come from?
Yeah, well, it's funny. My parents to this, I mean, before they passed on, they used to always ask about that because there was nobody in my family that was singing professionally or that was even engaged in, choral music in the church. My father had a great voice. He was a pretty good singer. My mother used to always say she couldn't sing, but I just loved music, period. Ever since I was a kid, standing on the street corner, singing with some of my girlfriends who had amazing voices. I remember this one in particular, Deborah Vivens. Boy, she had a great voice. So that's how I grew up wanting to sing, and I wanted to perform. And I had a band while I was at Harvard undergrad. I had a band while I was at Harvard Business School.
Wait
So
a minute. You
that
had a
supplemented
band.
the band at Harvard Business School was called the Late Night Band, and Mike Munch was the leader of that band, and we played all of the major events while we were there at Harvard Business School. So we kind of had a captive audience, if you will, regular gigs. And then undergrad, the rhythm company, I played with a couple of guys from Berklee School of Music. And so
Mm.
we played in and around Harvard and, Tufts and some of those areas as well. And then when I moved to the city and started working, I joined St. Patrick's Cathedral Choir, but because of the hours that I was working, I couldn't maintain that. But I would go up to the Apollo every Wednesday. I would leave work, go up there, come back, work all night if I had to, because it was my aspiration to sing on that stage one day. But as you know, that crowd was brutal. So I'd walk out of there and I'd say, not next month. But interestingly enough, because we did a concert sponsored by Morgan Stanley a few years back, I got a chance to sing at the Apollo, to headline at the Apollo. And it was Carla Harris and friends at the Apollo, Holidays from Harlem. So it's been an amazing experience. And then in 2000, I recorded my first CD
Mm.
because I realized that, if I didn't get promoted that year to managing director, and I also did not do the CD, it was 1999. As a matter of fact, I was going to be really upset with myself because I couldn't control what was going to happen with the managing director promotion. But I've been wanting to do a CD for a long time. So I recorded it in 99, released it in 2000 to critical success. It was the number one selling album on Amazon.com in New York. It was all over Virgin Megastore. Remember when we had
I
record stores?
love it. Yep.
Right. And I decided that I would
Exciting.
give all of the proceeds from the sale of the CD to two schools. One was St. Charles Borromeo up in Harlem, because that was now my church. And the other one was Bishop Kenny High School, because that was my alma mater. I wanted scholarship money for the next Carla Harris to come through and be able to
Oh,
go for the full 4 years if they were academically able to get in, but financially unable to go. That money would be there. And I still have that scholarship, to this day. And in 2005, after the second CD, which was called Joy is Waiting, I said, the way real singers sell their records is they do concerts. Obviously, I'm
Oh,
an investment banker, so I can't tour, but let me go to Carnegie Hall. So I marched myself up there to Carnegie Hall. I'll never forget the woman's name, Glenda Weisberger. And I said, I want to do a concert here, a benefit concert. And she said, have a seat. And so she began to tell me what I needed to do. And every other sentence was, but it's expensive. We are Union House. It's expensive. A lot of equipment, a lot of people. It's expensive.
it's
And I'm like,
expensive.
And then I said, may I have the paperwork, please? And she said, who are you? And I said, I'm Carla Harris, right? And I walked away, signed up, paid the deposit, and voila, we're about to do a concert. Now, that was July 2005.
Mhm.
September 2005, and the concert's in November. I said, wait, what if I don't sell the ticket? How am I going to give any money to the schools? Now I'm starting to panic. Now I'm like, who am I? Nobody's going to buy a ticket. They don't know me. So I
So
said, wait a minute. You're a capital markets banker. Leverage your skills. So I said, let me syndicate. I'll call 25 of my friends and ask for $1,000, and 25 of my friends and ask them to sponsor for 500. That'll be 37,500. I'll put 2,500 with it. That'll be 40,000. I can give 20,000 to each school. So if nobody buys a ticket, at least the schools will get some money. Well, we sold out, Natalie, and we raised 77,500. And I learned a valuable lesson. Never limit anybody in their giving. They gave me 1,000 because I asked for 1,000. They gave me 500 because I asked for 500.
That's right.
So the next time, because now people were like, are you going to do it again? You're going to do it again? So the next time I did the classic New York thing. For 500, you get this. For 1,000, you get this. For 25,000, you get this. And sure enough, people who wrote $1,000 check wrote a $10,000 check. Companies like Morgan Stanley and then Lehman Brothers and JP Morgan sponsored the concert. So
Fabulous.
we were able to raise $300,000 for the schools.
Wow, Carla, this is just so amazing. You graduate Harvard Business School. We've already fast forward to some of your time on Wall Street. We know you're a managing director, and then beyond, you are notable, and you're notable for your non-traditional style. Let's talk a little bit about family life post Harvard and being on Wall Street, because we know the two are just not necessarily the most compatible.
No, I very privileged and honored to marry my high school sweetheart, the guy who took
No
me to my
way.
prom.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Our lives diverged right after high school. He went off to the Army, was married, had a family. I went off to Harvard Business School, Wall Street, and then our paths crossed again. And in 2001, we got married. And in 2015, adopted our first daughter. So she's almost 8. And then 2 months into the pandemic, we got a call from the same adoption agency and said, we know you guys have been waiting and you had pretty much given up, but we got a situation that we think fits exactly what you were waiting for. And sure enough, it did. So we
Oh,
went and picked up Miss McKinley, and she just made 3 years old.
oh my God, I got goosebumps. Okay, wait a minute. You've got a 3-year-old.
I got a 3-year-old and an almost 8-year-old. Yes.
Oh boy. They're going to keep you busy for a long.
Having a ball. I'm having a ball, Natalie.
Listen, our banners don't have enough space for all this. You have authored 3 books, all of them about winning. You're a winner. We know it. Expect to win, strategize to win, and now lead to win. Tell us about the birth of those books.
Yes, I spent a lot of time talking about what I had learned the hard way, and I call them Carla's pearls, my hard-earned and hard-learned pearls. And those are the pearls that I wrote about and expect to win. And that's all I thought I had to say, frankly, Natalie. But then during the financial services crisis, I saw people struggling because so many people were displaced. I saw people struggling to get back into the game or wanting to pivot in their career. And I believe that the reason people don't get the opportunities that they want is they don't know how to tell their story through the lens of what the buyer is really buying. So I said, aha, I think I can be helpful. I have some information that people could use. That's what motivated Strategize to Win. But Lead to Win, frankly, was motivated because I started getting calls from all of these people in the C-suite when the pandemic hit, saying things like, how do I lead in this moment when we are not in the same place? How do I help people negotiate the personal and the professional when it's happening all in the personal context? How do I speak after this awful murder of George Floyd? Do I have to speak? So once again, I said, oh boy, I think I have a few things that would be helpful to the leaders who are currently sitting in the seat and those who are emerging into leadership seats. And that's what provoked Lead to Win.
Well, congratulations. I've always heard that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And yes, we have met in passing many a times and, are connected through other people. But Carla, you will not be able to get rid of me because this story has put so much fire under me. Thank you for sharing. Now, where can we find your books? Expect to Win, Strategize to Win, Lead to Win.
Absolutely.
Lead to Win, I don't have. And by the way, I have your first CD. You need to know that.
Yeah, well, we can make sure you get all the CDs, Natalie, as well as the books. So no worry, they'll be on the way. So you can get it at Barnes and Noble. You can get it, from Amazon or your local bookstore. Many of the local bookstores are carrying it as well. You can go to www.carlaspearls.com and get further information and click on it to buy the books there too. And I have it in audio as well as in hard. And the audio is in my voice.
Fabulous. That is absolutely fabulous because this is a must have for everyone. We're all running around trying to figure out how to We're all running around trying to figure out how to win, how to make it out, how to make it work. And, interestingly enough, you wrote Strategize to Win during the financial crises, which we know there's another one coming. Okay. Quietly as it's kept.
I'm not that bearish.
Quietly as it's kept, something's about to happen because what we have going on is not sustainable. There's a little correction, but what do I know? Anywho, and now we have Lead to Win. We so need that because the work culture has changed so much. What are you finding, Carla, the most interesting shift that you're experiencing now that we're going back to the workplace and we have the new normal and we're in a post-pandemic stage?
Absolutely. Two powerful shifts have to happen because of pandemic. One was the amplification of voice and choice. Employees are now saying how they want to work, when they want to work, under what conditions they want to work. Employers now have to speak about things that they never had to speak about before. And we're in a position now where people are demanding a different context in terms of how they do the work that they're doing. And leaders are now being called upon to be more authentic, more empathetic, and more creative.
Wow. So there you have it. Lead to Win. We are talking with none other than the indomitable Carla Harris. She's a vocalist. She has performed at the Carnegie Hall. She's also made it to the Apollo stage, the toughest stage in America. She shares her pearls, her gems with us, and she is a notable Wall Street executive and, of course, an author. She's also a mom. Congratulations on the new babe. That is just wonderful. You're a philanthropist, Carla. You are a philanthropist. Yes. And I need not state what you've already stated, but you're from humble beginnings and nobody bet on you, of course, except your parents. But you took the road less traveled, and here you are today sharing your pearls. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking with Carla Harris. Be sure to get her books at carlaspearl.com. Easy to find. She's also on Instagram, Carla Harris. She's on Facebook, Carla Ann Harris. And you can find her on social media. She's also available in Barnes and Nobles, also on Amazon. Expect to Win, Strategize to Win, Lead to Win. Thank you so much for joining us, Carla.
Thank you so much for having me, Natalie. This was great.
Absolutely. We're going to have you come back and sing for us.
Anytime.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank
So,
you.
ladies and gentlemen, here you have it. This is what happens when you are prepared. Carla Harris did the work, and she is one of the most notable females on Wall Street today, and by far most notable African-American female on Wall Street. She has accomplished so much and has so much more to offer. I'm excited to know her. Well, we've come to the close of another Living Life Authentically with Natalie B. McKenzie. But before we go, we want to wish a happy birthday to one of my absolute favorite person in the world, my sister Debbie. And for those of you who know me well, know this is my crazy sister. There's not a tune she won't dance to. There's not a laughter she won't chuckle about. And she is my absolute rock. Whatever I'm doing, she says, yes, you can do it, and shows up for me. We love you, Debbie. I cannot believe this is the second or third time in my life I'm not spending your birthday with you. Happy birthday. We love you. And you can see, Carla, you've got the congratulations popping up. Thank you for watching us. I'm Natalie B. McKenzie, and we wish you enough life to live, enough joy to give, enough love to share. I wish you enough. Good night.